Now, let's move on. We got 20 left in the random portion right now. So let's take a look at what we need. 10. Birdie Wing. Okay, this is the Golfing Girls one. I might like this one, I might not. Let's give it a go. Alright, well, I got through about a little over 6 episodes of Birdie Wing. I was hoping for a little bit more in certain areas from it. I didn't dislike it by the end, but I wasn't exactly feeling it. It felt like a bit of a struggle to get through a lot of the time. Because I don't think it wasn't as extreme as I would have liked it to be, and B, its execution was pretty subpar in a lot of areas. Not bad, but it was very clear that this wasn't isn't a production that was going to blow me away. Character designs were competent most of the time, but had pretty interesting ideas for settings, but the settings didn't really stand out particularly well in terms of how they were designed. And just the overall look of the series looks like a mid-tier anime, if that makes sense. Like, it doesn't look bad, but it does not look great or good by any stretch. Except during, like, the Golf Sakuga stuff. And, like, I'm not gonna say I disliked it because of my expectations for it, but I will say the people who do like the series on Twitter talk about how, like, over the top and insane it is, and it kinda is, but it's really not that insane. Like, I was expecting, like, weird even actually, based on the first episode, I was expecting weird shonen battle golf shit. But it kind of cooled off on that completely after the first episode. And like it briefly came back for episode 4 with the Snake Woman, but even that was like pretty obvious to tell what was going on right away, and B, not that inventive. So I would have liked this series to be fucking insane with its golf powers and shit. That would have made this way more engaging. And if the production had been a little stronger, I definitely would have been more engaged. Not to say there wasn't anything to like about it. I really liked the rivalry between our leads, Eve and Aoi. Pretty much anytime they were interacting, I was super into the series. Pretty much any time that wasn't happening, I kind of didn't give a shit. So I just tweeted this out a little while ago. It's basically I really like this show when it's trying to be Megalobox, and I don't really care for it when it's not doing that. So, yeah, that's my general summary of the series, I guess. If you're just... Actually, no, I don't even know who I would recommend this series to, because the good points that it does have going for it, I don't think are extreme enough or well polished enough to say that it works on its own in that. So, I mean, give it a shot, I guess, but I just kind of left it feeling a little underwhelmed. Alright, Birdie Wing coming off the list, unfortunately. So let's see, we're down to 19 plus the other ones at the bottom here. So let's see who's next. 17 is... Oh yeah, Shikimori's Not Just a Cutie. Hell yes, more cute rom-com shit. Let's fucking go. Hope I don't regret everything I just said. Alright, I just finished all of Shikimori-san's Not Just a Cutie. And I liked that show. That was a fun little show. Not normally something that I say about an anime, but I will say that the first half and the second half are very different in terms of quality and also in terms of content. The first half of the series is mostly gags with light character building in it. Not so much gags, but mostly it's more so mainly comedy focused, while very slowly building in some pertinent details about all of the characters. And I definitely enjoyed this first half. I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. But I will say it is definitely weaker than the second half, in that the gags don't flow quite as well. It's not that the gags get repetitive like Aharon-san did for me. It's more so that, especially in the first episode, the structure of the gags didn't fit quite right. Like, I think the eraser gag in particular, like, it just left me going, wait, what? So that threw me off a little bit, but what carried it through for me was, the art is so fucking gorgeous for this show, and the animation is so goddamn good. Combined with the fact that Shikimori is really fucking cool and hot and cute and just awesome. I'm not going to say this is a one-trick pony show, because it definitely isn't, but if you're not in it for the Shikimori is a cool waifu aspect of it, you might have a bit of difficulty with this show, because that is the primary gag for the comedy. It's not the only gag, but it is the primary gag. So if you're not going to buy into that, you might have some issues with this one. Fortunately, I bought into it because I learned over the past few months that my taste in waifus is extremely normie, in that cute anime girl with long flowing pink hair that is kinda cool is apparently my type. We got Shikimori-san, we got Tsukasa from Tonikawa, we got Mori Calliope, the VTuber. I don't know when that happened, because I used to hate this archetype. I used to, like, just revile every single character that fit that archetype. Like, Mocha from Rosario and Vampire sticks out to me as one that's particularly bad. Anime version, not the manga version. I know they're different, but that was kind of where my hatred of that design started, and I was like, this sucks. And now I'm just like, okay, if they have long pink hair and they're kind of cool, I'm probably going to like this character a lot. And Shikimori definitely fits that description. But I will say that the first half also has some pretty strong character writing as well. Like, a lot of people hate Izumi from this show, especially on Twitter. People fucking hate the protagonist of this show. Unjustly. Very unjustly. He is mildly annoying in certain instances, but overall I think he's a pretty solid character. He's basically an unlucky dude who's, on top of that, he's kind of frail and just kind of clumsy, and just bad shit just seems to happen to him. And he's kind of internalized that in some interesting ways, both in the instance of he doesn't want other people to get hurt or have people get bummed out because of something that happened to him, but also it kind of makes him a very kind and empathetic person as well, because like he's able to understand suffering from other people, and so because of the suffering that he has. So I think that makes him a pretty cool character. And like, from the first minute of the show, like, we get some interesting details about him that you don't see in like other rom-com protagonists. Mainly that he's kind of feminine. Like, one of the first shots of him is like we see him in the mirror brushing his hair because he's concerned that his like hair is gonna look messy. which I don't think I've ever seen a rom-com protagonist brush their hair ever. I'm trying to recall some, but I don't think I've ever seen it. And as someone who has, as you can see, recently changed my hairstyle a bit, I used to just have medium-ish length hair that I didn't give a shit about, and now I actually kind of care about how my hair looks, so I actually do brush my hair now. As someone who's in that situation, it kind of made me relate to him a little more. It's like I actually kind of care about my appearance now. I'm not as successful at it as he is, but I'm actually starting to care about how I look. And so that kind of struck a chord with me, and just I don't get who looks at the show and says that Izumi is a generic rom-com protagonist, because he is the opposite of generic. He's feminine, he's extremely, empathetic does kind of go hand in hand with rom-com protagonists, but he's very feminine, he's kind of got a soft boy look to him, which I kind of dig. We need more soft boy rom-com protagonists so that we can have really cool waifus to pair with them. And yeah, Shikimori is just really cool and fun and just a blast. And all of their whole friend group is super fun too, and I especially liked Hachimitsu's episode for the relay. I think that was episode 10. Just a nice, well-rounded cast that keeps this show from being a one-gag kind of show. So that was definitely a relief. Now, that said, second half of this show, way stronger than the first. Mainly because of episodes 7 through 9, which is where we get the arc with Kamiya, who is the ace from the volleyball team, who is leagues above everyone else in terms of characterization. I already just described how I liked the characters in this show, and I think they're well-realized characters. Kamiya is way the fuck above everyone else. She just is. And her arc about just kind of keeping her emotions bottled up and not wanting to tell Izumi that she likes him, it reminded me of this quote from the Akasaka, the Kaguya-sama author, where he said that one of the main themes of the work is that love doesn't get anywhere just by waiting. You have to take action on it. And she kind of embodies the failure of that notion. She never acts on her love for Izumi, and so she kind of suffers for it. But Shikimori, just being a great gal, doesn't hold it against her for being into the same guy that she is, and she's just like, you know what? Anyone who likes the guy that I like can't be all that bad. And then they have a cute little girl friendship from there. And honestly, Kamiya might be even hotter than Shikimori. It's a big toss-up, because I also found out, I was like, her voice is so fucking good in this. And I looked it up, and the only role I recognize her from is she's the student council president from Tropical Rouge Precure, which definitely tracks considering the archetype. They are notably similar in certain areas. Although I would say Kamiya is much cooler as a character. But, yeah. And also her character design is so fucking gorgeous and cool. And, God, Doga Kobo fucking knocked this one out of the park. Which I didn't mention earlier when I talked about it, but apparently RPG Real Estate was also a Doga Kobo show. Which kinda tracks, because the animation was better than it should have been for that kind of show. It wasn't Doga Kobo standard good, but it was better than I was expecting. Shikimori-san is the Doga Kobo standard of looking fucking amazing in so many frames. It is so fucking beautiful. Especially in the second half, where it really hones in on these emotional moments and just the incredibly nuanced details of the character's facial features, The lighting in the final episode is so insanely gorgeous and beautiful. This is definitely a contender for best animated show of the season. Pretty sure the only things that could possibly beat it are Spy Family and Kaguya-sama, but we'll see. So yeah, really, I liked this show. The opening couple episodes could have been better, but this show really pulled it off in the second half. And I am kind of disappointed that this has under a 7 on Mal. I understand why, because people suck. But yeah, I had quite a bit of fun with this show. Alright, Shikimori is done. And we're going to put it right up here. And this one gets a decent 7. Good show. Now, let's see, we're down to 18 now, I think, plus our little checkpoint ones at the end. Let's see what's next. Nope. 18. Kaginado Season 2. Alright. More key madness. Let's go. Alright, I just watched all of Kaginado Season 2. Just as good as the first season. Just some good old key parody stuff. Not a whole lot to add that I didn't already talk about in the... God, was that the fall season, I think? Yeah, I think it was the fall season when I talked about the first season. But this season adds in Angel Beats, so that was a real treat. They were kind of at the center of a lot of this stuff. It definitely kind of blew me away how much I remembered about Angel Beats as this show went along, considering that it's been literally over a decade since I've seen Angel Beats. I should rewatch that show. Hopefully it still holds up. It definitely invoked several moments of me shouting "How dare you" at the screen. Like, fuck, the girl with the guitar, I can't remember her name, but they play her song from episode 3 of Angel Beats. They have her sing that song at one point, and I'm just like, how dare. Quite emotional. Quite an emotional series Angel Beats was. But yeah, the gags in this are just as good as ever. Again, I'm not entirely familiar with Key's catalog. I've seen Clanad. I've seen like a couple episodes of Rewrite. I've seen Angel Beats and Planetarian. Haven't seen the other ones. Kind of surprised that Charlotte and the new one, The Day I Became a God, didn't make it in. Probably because those just aren't as popular. Maybe? Or, I don't know, maybe they don't have the rights to them. Who knows? But, speaking of Planetarian, though, I do like that the very first episode of Season 1 opens on Planetarian, and then this season closes with Planetarian. It's got Ushio from Clanad, like, listening to, I don't remember the character's name from Planetarian, like, giving a presentation on the show, and it's a very sweet ending to this. Very sweet and heartwarming kind of ending. So, yeah, more Kaginado is good. I would definitely like to see them make more of this, as long as they don't tongue got away from me. As long as they don't run out of ideas, I am definitely down for more of this. Alright, Kaginado Season 2 is done. And let's see, we're going to put it... yeah, fuck it, we're going to put it right there. And this one gets a decent 7. Alright, moving on, we got 17 left, plus our checkpoints at the end. Let's see who's next. 13. Dawn of the Witch. This is the Grimoire of Zero spin-off, I think. Let's see how it do. Alright, I made it through about half an episode of Dawn of the Witch, and holy shit, these characters are so annoying. Like, over half the cast is just shouty, irritating little shits that I hate. Especially the main witch character, Los? I don't fucking care how it's pronounced. Most of these characters are shit and annoying. I hate them. It also does the thing where it's like, oh, the main character is the worst in the thing, and then it does absolutely nothing to show that at all. Like, it immediately follows that up with him being pretty good at reciting history and understanding basic concepts, so he doesn't seem like a shit student at all. So why even have that be a plot point? I'm sure it's going to come up later, but they do a really bad job of setting him up as someone who's actually a bad student. Visually, it's definitely better than the thing that it's a spin-off slash prequel or whatever of. I don't know. This is in the same franchise as Grimoire of Zero, which is the show that I did a video about like 5 years ago. It's probably not a good video. I don't think it holds up at this point, just because that was one of the first videos I ever made. But I dropped that series like 4 or 5 episodes in for some reason that I don't even remember. And I will say this show looks better than that one, but I think it's more so just a natural consequence of this being a show that is made 5 years later. And so the standard is just a little bit higher. It's not an amazing looking show, but it is competent looking. But that doesn't really matter because all the characters are garbage. So let's move on. Alright. Goodbye to Dawn of the Witch. Let's move on. See what's next. Up next, we have for Spriggan. This, I don't know if this is a movie or a series or something. I know it's on Netflix, but I'm about to find out. Let's give it a go. Alright, I watched the first episode of the new Spriggan anime, and I didn't dislike it, but there's not really enough there to make me want to continue it. Now, there is a decent amount of good stuff going for this show. Pretty solid character designs overall. Action scenes are pretty solid, although it does get a little... Like, okay, so there's a lot of CG character models in this anime. For the most part, I'm fine with the action scenes doing it. It could have been a lot better if it was just 2D animation, but I'm okay-ish for the most part with the action scenes, because the choreography is pretty solid, although there is a couple editing issues and also a lack of impact in a lot of stuff, though I think that's more on the editing and sound design end of things. But they also use these models in a lot of non-action scenes, especially as this episode went further along, like especially in the second half. A lot of the main character, a lot of his shots are of using a CG model instead of just traditional 2D animation, even though he's just kind of sitting there and doesn't have a lot of like, most of his movements are fairly minimal, so I'm not sure why they're using a CG model other than something really bad happened with this production at some point and they needed to cut time. They needed to save time on this one. But yeah, the fights are pretty decent. The nameless goons and highly trained soldiers actually act like highly trained soldiers and not like dim-witted stormtroopers. So that was a nice change of pace from what I'm used to with this kind of with that kind of character from this kind of story. So I'll give it that. But I don't particularly care about the story itself, it's got a pretty basic ancient civilizations with destructive super weapons plot. And I do like the first super weapon that we come across. It is kind of interesting, basically like a lava serpent. It's kind of cool, although they don't really do a lot of cool stuff with it. They kind of just break open something in Mount Fuji, and then that's it. And then they have a sword fight or something. But I don't particularly care about the science, the pseudoscience behind any of it. It just felt like technobabble washing over me. Did not particularly care for any of the characters either. Like, Yu is fine. Scientist lady that is his childhood friend is fine, I guess. But I do not care about anyone else in this show. They're all just totally generic and uninteresting. Also, the music is oddly lacking. Like, the big climactic moments of the story, of like the fight scenes and of like the big emotional moments, the music is not pulling its weight at all, and actually seems like way too tame for what's going on screen, which is pretty rare for anime. Usually, I don't usually get a lot of like not good soundtracks. Normally, soundtracks are at least competent and at least know what the scene demands, but this one just kind of felt like it was just hanging back and just not really going for it, which I think contributed a lot to my boredom with the series. Just didn't really know when to hit those climactic moments, and honestly, thinking back to it now, the soundtrack itself didn't really have any climactic moments, so that was kind of lame. So yeah, I think I'm gonna give up on this one. Might check out the 90s OVA at some point, but I don't particularly care about the story, so I would mostly just be checking that out for the action and the good old 90s OVA animation. So, yeah. Alright, Spriggan is coming off the list. And I believe that brings us down to 15 in this top section here. So now it's time to dip into the bottom again. And up next we have Spy Family. I'm really hoping this one is as good as people say it is. Let's go. Alright, I just watched all of Spy Family, and that was so much fun. I really, really enjoyed that. I think this one might be my favorite of the spring season so far, although we are only halfway through, but we'll get to that later. I guess a little bit of a plot twist I can drop right here is I actually dropped the manga for this. I read like 5 or 6 volumes of it, I think. Although that's not too surprising because my standards for manga are extremely high because I only read physically. Like, I only read it if I can have the book in my hand, so buying an entire series is quite expensive. So, something about the manga just felt very slow for some reason to me, so I wasn't quite as invested as I would have liked to be. Ironically, the anime, at least in terms of its adaptation rate, is much slower than I would have thought it would be. Like, I thought we would get all the way through the Bond arc, the arc with the dog, by the end of this first season, and we only just introduced him at the end of episode 11. Although that has to do a lot more with the fact that this season adapts a lot of the side stories from the series, and even does a lot of, I guess, anime original content. Like, episode 4 with the castle, I honestly do not remember at all. It might be, like, some side story that I just don't remember, but it's kind of cool that they were able to really expound on this material in some interesting ways that really kept me invested in it. And yeah, I mean, aside from that, this is just a really fucking fun show. All the characters are super endearing, with the exception of probably Yuri, I guess. I didn't like his gags in the manga, and I don't like him in the anime. He's tolerable, but not a particular fan. The less of him we see, the better, in my opinion. But yeah, I'm really strong core cast for this series. The chemistry between Lloyd and Yor and Anya is just fucking perfect. The way that these characters are able to bounce off of each other to create really fun and engaging interactions, be they humorous or more emotional and heartwarming. Just really fucking good cast for this series. And I think that's one of the reasons why this show has been such a fucking phenomenon for this season, even outside of like the seasonal anime sphere. Like, this is getting traction outside of the normal anime audience, and it's pretty obvious to see why. It's just a really strong cast of characters, really well put together, and obviously it does have a bit more of a Western bend to it, with the basically spies in not East Germany and not West Germany. But yeah, that's just... I don't think I was ever bored during this anime as opposed to the manga. I was just constantly engaging, just constantly kept me going. Really tight directing and editing. I think really episode 1 was the only point where I felt like I had a few issues with like editing or pacing or anything like that. But even then, those cases were fairly mild. Yeah, and again, I think the directing is definitely one of this anime's strong suits, along with the insane animation talent behind this. Like, the way this show does stuff with the animated space. Like, I've been watching anime for like hardcore for like over a decade now, and this anime is still showing me stuff where I'm like, oh, you can do that in animation. You can make... How did you make that effect? How did you make this specific character movement? How did you create this kind of depth of field? Or how did you create a space that looks like this? This is a really polished, really ambitious production. It's not perfect by any means. Like, there are some necessary CG crowd shots here and there, and some of the seams do show a little bit when the camera gets a little too ambitious. But I think that's not really that huge a problem here in the fact that the camera is being ambitious at all. Like, after seeing the 8,000th anime that's just panning shots and still shots over and over again, to see something that, like, this feels almost live action-ish in terms of how the camera captures a specific shot, how the characters move around in that space. It feels so alive and just absolutely gorgeous to look at. The character designs are translated perfectly to this to anime. The color design is on point constantly. Like, I said this before the anime came out, but it was like this kind of off tangent that I just thought of, but before the anime came out, I took like an eye droplet sampling of like the specific color of the Spy Family volume covers, because it's a very distinct shade of like green, blue, seafoam, something of that nature. I know color's good, but I made a tweet. It was like how do you make a fucking shade of green iconic or something like that? And the anime is really pulling off the... It's really translated the few bits of color aesthetic that we get from the manga really well to the anime. Like, this is exactly what I thought the anime, these characters would look like in color. And it's just so fucking gorgeous to look at. The action scenes are fucking phenomenal. There's some amazing choreography. The facial expressions, of course, are fucking perfect. Anya being that fucking cute little gremlin with 1,000 faces that are just amazing to look at. That's another thing I've pointed out at some point before, is like, good anime faces really gets me excited to watch a show, just because of how, just being able to be so expressive with a character has become really important to me. This is just an absolute wonder of a production, and I am very, very content with this show. I'm trying to think of any like notable faults, and I guess I could only say like the episode to episode pacing gets weird sometimes, but very rare. Mostly it's just that it ended on like episode 11 introduced Bond, the dog, at the very end, and then the final episode, episode 12, is basically two side stories smashed together. So that was a little weird, I guess. Like, I'm not sure where that final episode should have gone, but somewhere earlier than that, I guess. I'm grasping at straws to critique this show. That's what I'm at right now. This was really damn good. Really enjoyed it. Can't wait for second season in the fall, I think, is when this second season comes out. I think that's when. Yeah, and I'm really hoping it expounds on it ends up expounding on some of the themes that it vaguely touches on in this show, like Anya's telepath powers and how that how her character is characterized, I guess, as a result of that. We have this vague idea of Lloyd not being allowed to feel or form attachments because he is a spy and he has to constantly drop things at the drop of a hat. And he's that's kind of smashing up against the idea of forming a family and actually having to care about a family. So I'll be very interested to see how that idea evolves over the course of the series. Yeah, go watch Spy Family. I don't think you need me to tell you that, but it's fucking good. Alright, Spy Family is complete. We're going to put it pretty well towards the top. Just barely under Dress Up Darling. And you get a decent 8. Whoop, had caps lock on. That's unfortunate. Decent 8. It is like just barely under Dress Up Darling. Like if we go over to my full list, I literally have them like right next to each other. So yeah, looking forward to season 2.